The podcast you're about to listen to may contain objectionable language, adult and/or immature content, mentions of Jesus Christ, and unironic readings of holy Christian scriptures. If any of this is likely to offend you in a manner that you find less than enjoyable, maybe don't listen.
Hi, I'm Pastor Bob Schaefer.
And I'm Pastor Eric Damon. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome to CPTB, which doesn't stand for the Cribbage Players Tournament Board.
Oh, cribbage players.
Yeah.
We have to do a cribbage players podcast next.
My grandparents played cribbage all the time. I think that would be a good tribute.
It might be a better show than this one, but what is the show we're actually doing?
It is just exactly what it sounds like. Comedians with pastors talking Bible. That's the show we're going to do here for you. And every week, you and I gather comedians to sit down at the table with us talking about a passage from the Bible.
And how do we pick the passage we're going to talk about? We just grab anyone by random?
That might be fun, but we use the Revised Common Lectionary to be a little more organized. It's a cycle of readings for every single Sunday of the year, and there are lots of churches around the world that are using those texts. That's why we do it, so that we can hopefully say something that is interesting and useful to our colleagues out there, and maybe to us as we prepare our sermons.
So in other words, we're getting comedians who have no theological training to come in and talk with us about the passages we have to preach on the coming Sunday. And we still consider this to be a good idea into a second season.
Why would you not want somebody else to do your sermon prep for you, Eric?
You swayed me. It's a good idea, period.
I think it's a good idea. And, we're finding that when it works, and it seems to always work, we get a really interesting lens on scriptures for working preachers like us. We get a interesting Bible study for everybody out there who's interested. And we also get some honest laughs for everyone, because we all need that. And if for some reason this season it doesn't work out, we're going to just offend pretty much everybody, and I'm going to keep on handing that phone to you when the bishop calls.
Ooh, we don't even know who our bishop is going to be by the time that bishop calls.
We probably have a pass for several months. It could be an angry
bishop or a friendly bishop, but that's inside baseball for those in the Southwestern PA Synod, that we have a bishop's election coming up this year. But that sounds great. Let's meet our comedians. With us this week, we've got Dave Stewart. Say hello, Dave.
Hello.
There you go. And we've got Andy Rice, a.k.a. Big Hoss.
What up?
And how are both of you guys doing today?
Hoss, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm pretty good.
Good?
You said both of us. I wasn't
sure.
Yeah,
it's bad podcast etiquette for me to open up for either one of you with a mic to talk. But for those who are not familiar with you, if you are here for Comedians with Pastors Talking About Bible and don't know that, Big Hoss has got his own podcast. Big Hoss's Tailgate, is that the official name of it?
Yes, it is.
Big Hoss's Tailgate. You should definitely check that out. And Dave Stewart, you are what title do you give yourself for Chipped Ham Comedy? Are you the CEO, founder? What are you?
I'm the owner.
You're the owner.
Yeah,
of Chipped Ham.
I would feel so lame to be like I'm the CEO or something. That's weird.
Yeah, founder sound. I mean, you founded it. It wasn't there before you made it.
I'm not Ray Kroc. I don't understand.
Ray Kroc did not found anything either.
That's very true, by the way. He stole that. But no, first I'm a comedian. First and foremost, I'm a comic.
Yeah, and so let's just get into how did you, from being a comic to really trying to get in and produce shows, what was that journey?
Okay, so I actually come from the background of DIY punk rock. So I played in bands for a long time, I went to shows for a long time, and I was kind of very involved in the Pittsburgh and West Pennsylvania punk and indie scene for a long time. And so I was already kind of producing shows on that end, did VFWs and American Legions and church basements and stuff like that. So I already kind of knew how to get people to come to a thing. I'm doing a thing, it costs this much money, come do it, come see it, right? And then I started doing stand up And then after a while, I was like, you know what? Like, I've always been kind of the, because it's DIY, like do it yourself. So my mindset's always been like, don't wait to get booked, book yourself. If you find a venue and do a monthly show, every month you got a show, man. And it's also a good way to network. And like, I've met so many comics who I work with all the time that I just booked them to do a show and we just made friends. So yeah.
I didn't connect the punk, because for those who, this is a podcast and you cannot see us, but Dave Stewart and I have a sort of mirror image life that I appear to be the one that should have grown up in the hills my whole life, and that's where I live now, and you don't appear like you should have ever been in the hills, and you're not there now, and both of us began opposite ways, but the tie-in is that both of us at a certain point have a punk history in our lives. I mean, in my early 20s, really moving around with a lot of folks on the Denver punk scene. And I mean, I hear exactly what you're saying, that it was that's a scene that the gatekeepers aren't going to give you anything. Yeah. And I mean, okay, sure. In the late 90s, the gatekeepers were, if you had melodic punk, they were giving you something, but nobody that was actually on the punk scene wanted that. I mean, other than the money would have been good. So yeah, I get what you're saying there, that's just a look. If we're not going to get booked there, especially in this town for comedy, there's like 2 big gates. And that's it.
You just book yourself. You know what I mean? And but also, like, I genuinely enjoy it. I've always kind of it sounds silly, but I've always really enjoyed just the process of like, hey, like it's kind of like Ron Swanson has a thing about like, like, hey, I'm selling these apples. You want to buy them? That's how I feel. Like, hey, at this venue on this date for this much money, I'm having a comedy show. You want to come do it?
Yeah,
that's simple. And so, so I own Chip Tan Comedy because Pittsburgh, and so for like a year and a half, I did a show at Espresso Mono called Coffee and Comedy, and then in November, we had the very first Chip Tan Comedy Jam, which is my festival that I now do in the city here, and then actually February 28th, if I can do a little plug, will be the first show at Helltown Brewing in the Strip District.
Right on.
So it'll be, and the first one's just going to be a showcase. Let's have comics come out. It'll be fun. We'll have some laughs, drink some beer. Yeah. It'll be great.
Yeah. No, and I mean, props for bringing Jackie Cation to town. I mean, that's
she was wonderful.
I mean, for a first time out of the gate, she's a heavy hitter to come to town.
Well, I open, and this kind of comes with like, I think that I always kind of stress to, and not everyone's good at this, but I stress to a lot of like young comics, like you really need to get good at networking. It's like any business. So I opened for Jackie at the barbershop with, it was me, Shannon Norman, Amanda Averill. We opened for her at the Bryan Street Barbershop, and we just kept in touch. And so I was like, hey, Jackie, I'm doing this thing. And she's like, sounds good. Let's do it. She was so nice. She was so nice. She was great. So
right on. And Big Hoss, we've got, so the overlap, I mean, if we've got to do the Venn diagram, because I really don't know your childhood, but have you been country your entire life?
Oh yeah, I mean, I grew up.
You are full country through and through.
The road I grew up on was called Fisher Hollow Road. Like it's spelled hollow, but for some reason there's an R. I don't get it. Like, yeah, my brother always used to say that I was a coal miner's daughter. I was like, thanks, dude. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Well, it wasn't Butcher Holler. It was Fisher Holler.
Right.
That's a different song.
Oh, yeah.
So now you're relatively recent into the Pittsburgh area. How did you get into comedy coming up? What?
So after COVID, I was like kind of depressed and was like, I don't know what to do with my life. And my buddy goes, do something. Go get a hobby. I was like, what should I go do? He goes, go do comedy, man. Because you've always wanted to do comedy. Go do it. I was like, I don't know how to start. And he goes, go find an open mic. So I Google open mics in Pittsburgh, and the first one that comes up is Scarpace's.
That was
my first one. And I told a ridiculous story that happened, while partying. And I was like, yeah, okay, I like this. This got a good response, and just kept doing it.
Go get yourself a hobby. That sounds like that's a healthier beginning than a lot to getting into the conversation.
But then you start becoming obsessed, and it's like, oh my God, now you're chasing the next, like, how do I get better every time?
Yeah, there's definitely an addictive quality to hearing random strangers laugh at what you say. But we have not brought you on to talk about anything comedy related.
Nice.
You've been brought on to talk about the Bible. It's helpful for us before we begin to let you know how Pastor Bob and I approach the Bible, and for those listening, for a disclosure. Bob?
Yeah, we're both pastors in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and our church considers the Bible to be the source and norm, the authoritative source and norm for what we preach and what we live and how we do our lives. And so one way of understanding that is just to say we take the Bible very seriously. We don't necessarily treat everything in it as literal. It's all true, we would say, but there are lots of truths that are metaphorical, that are poetic, that are even mythic. And so we look for what kind of a truth is being conveyed to us in the Bible here. And we also try to remember that the Bible points us as Christians to Jesus, not the other way around. So we worship Jesus and we learn about him in the Bible. And so we value the Bible very much, but it is not the main show.
Yeah, we don't worship the Bible. That's in a previous episode, we unpacked the word idolatry, the worshiping of a thing that is not God, and the Bible is not God, but does tell us the story of God. We, of course, do not expect any of the comedians we bring on this show to share those same commitments, but it's helpful before we talk about the Bible to understand where you're coming from, to let us know the background behind that and let the listeners know what they're hearing. So I will just really, since I already gave it to both of you once and found out that was podcast no-nos, Big Hoss, what is your relationship, either through your life or right now, to Scripture in general and Scripture in specific and religious communities in general?
So I grew up with a very religious background, grew up going to church and stuff like that, and reading the Bible a lot. And after COVID, I kind of fell off and just haven't ever made my way back, but still have a belief system. I kind of use that as the basis of how I treat people. For the most part, try to treat everybody with respect and try to take some of the lessons and apply it to my life.
So that's really recent. To say after COVID. So would you put before COVID, you were falling into the really religious, as you describe it, category,
yeah.
or and afterwards, not so much.
Yeah, afterwards, it's kind of I just became lost as a person and still trying to figure out who I am. It doesn't mean I won't go like I said, don't have a belief system. Just trying to figure it out how I actually feel about things.
So it's not a tied to a negative experience of your religious background, but it's more of a self-searching kind of thing.
Was it COVID itself that put you in that spot, or something else that happened simultaneously? If I'm not intruding,
it was a little bit of both. I think a lot of it was that being locked up in your house for a year and a half, and you're I can't go nowhere, I can't associate with people. What is the point of life? I don't understand, and things like that. And then I had some personal stuff coming the way too, and it was kind of all clashing at once. I was just I can't right now.
COVID also broke a lot of the routines we had. People who were regular about going to church and or even kind of on the margins, they kind of found when they didn't need to go to church that sleeping on Sunday was kind of a pleasant experience. And, a lot of those habits that we used to have in the before times, I think did kind of get broken and assumptions challenged. So I get that.
Oh yeah. And then they used to have services on Zoom, and you're just why get dressed? I can just sit here in my Bud Light pants and enjoy this, and no one gets to see me.
Oh, I 100% led sermons in a clerical top, so the black shirt and white collar, with my pajama bottoms on. That was
Absolutely.
There was no need. Who was going to see that?
Especially this time of year. Them sweatpants feel a lot warmer than than dress clothes.
We're both wearing long robes on Sunday morning. You don't know that's not what's going on anyhow.
Yeah.
Oh no, I like my high church cosplay. On a regular Sunday, I've got all the things on. That is, I am a big fan of dress up.
So wait, what do you guys wear for shoes then? Just regular dress shoes, or do you guys like Crocs underneath?
For a regular Sunday, so for me, it's Bob and I. But so the Lutheran Church gives us a lot of leeway in the way we present ourselves. For me, I will show up to church in a full clerical suit. So that is the black shirt, white collar, suit, coat, suit pants, dress shoes. I will then put on an alb, a stole, a cincher around with a chasuble over that. I don't always wear my pectoral cross.
You just said like 8 things sound like Minecraft. What did any of that mean? You were
All
like,
right. Which one you want unpacked? There. So the alb is the robe.
Okay,
that's a white robe. That's
you know how Dumbledore's name was Albus, white.
Yeah. So alb means white, and then the stole is the actual mark of ordination. So it's like how a chef can wear their chef hat finally.
Yeah.
We put on our stole to say that we have been ordained. And that's the thing that goes around your neck and hangs down.
Okay.
The cincher is the rope that goes around and then the chasuble is another, for best description, is a colorful robe that goes on top of your white robe.
The fun one.
It's the one that looks like a poncho.
And that is the mark of the fact that you are presiding over communion. So so on January, I think it'll be in the past when this gets released, but it will be. But on January 5th, I was at a service where I was not presiding over communion, and so I will not wear my chasuble that Sunday. But on a normal Sunday, when I am presiding at communion, I will put the chasuble on, and that's I enjoy. I mean, it's unlike some other traditions. We have room to go back and forth in what we present, and none of that do I look at as if I don't do it, it's done incorrectly.
Sure.
But I really enjoy. I mean, I call it high church cosplay as a joke, but it's also people who cosplay dress up like the people in a story that they're trying to get a deeper connection to with a community that shares a connection to that story.
Yeah.
Which is a lot like those of us who gather in worship around the Bible story.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's a joke, but it's also, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm putting on all of the things that let me get a deeper connection to a story that we are shared as a group connecting to.
I'm going to use that excuse for when next time I go to Comic-Con and I'm just caught staring at cosplayers. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get a deeper connection to the story. Big fan.
What's the last thing called again? What's it called? Say it again.
The chasuble?
Chasuble. It's like how humans have chasuble thumbs. Same thing.
Ah, nice. I kept thinking of it like this is a deep cut for like the young people to listen. Like it felt like Yu-Gi-Oh. He's got the left. He's got all the different pieces of armor to put together.
Yeah.
I got to wear one extra one that Eric didn't mention on Wednesday for our Blue Christmas. It's actually on Facebook. If you go to the Good Shepherd Monroeville website or Facebook page, you'll find a picture of me wearing my cope. Which, of course, leads to all kinds of jokes about I just can't cope and all of that, But this is like, it looks like a cape. It's this big, it's basically an outer garment that you could wear if you were traveling, but it's also often appropriate for morning and evening prayer. And so I was looking in the closet like, what am I going to wear for this service? And there's this great big blue cape thing hanging there. And I'm like, that's the thing. That's it. And so, of course, me being me, I took a self-portrait before I went in. Not a selfie either with the hands out, but like I set the phone down, and I put it on a timer, and I posed myself. And the best thing is people think I look like Darth Vader.
I was going to say,
It's-
did you strike the Superman pose?
I did not.
Just that little like.
No. I had the hands folded, just barely coming out from. It looks very Vader.
It's a very Darth Vader.
Yeah, especially I put it in black and white, so you can't see the very blue color that thing was. And I'll show you guys afterwards.
So we ended up in a vestment digression, which will have
an entirely new
time to
sentence.
get into our discussion. But so just for a quick overview, we're going to have you guys on for the next episode. But Dave, in a real quick way, do you have a positive, negative? What is your relationship to religion and Christianity in specific right now?
Well, I mean, like, I wasn't necessarily raised religious in any way. My mom's not religious. And when I was in middle school, high school, I kind of had the friends that went to like youth group, and I wanted to go too. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then so I started going to church more often. Then I spent 10 years going to Mahaffey Church Camp, which is an alliance church, it's a missionary church, about half hour east of Punxsutawney, and it was overall positive. You know, it was a positive experience. Yeah, I would say that now I'm not religious, but I'm in no way ever opposed to it. I really and I take things from Christianity that I still use in my everyday life, kind of similar to Haas, which is that I believe in the golden rule. You treat people how you want to be treated. Mm-hmm. Earlier, I really do believe many hands make light work. You know what I mean? Y'all work together, things get done faster. So, I'm not religious, but I would say I'm not an agnostic necessarily. I'm just someone who, I'm a fan from a distance. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, so we are going to discuss a specific scripture passage that is the gospel text. It's not the one we have to preach on the coming Sunday, but it is the most common one for pastors to choose. Would you like to read that for us, Bob?
I would like it so much.
All right.
This is the reading for Sunday, January 12th, 2025, which is the baptism of our Lord. And this text is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 3. This reading opens with questions about the identity of the Messiah. John the Baptist insists that he is not the Messiah. Instead, he points ahead to the one who is coming. And whether the voice of God was heard by all or only by Jesus, God settles the matter. Jesus is God's beloved Son. So here's the text. As the people were filled with expectation, and all were questioning in their hearts concerning John, whether he might be the Messiah, John answered all of them by saying, I baptize you with water, but one who is more powerful than I is coming. I am not worthy to untie the thong of his sandals. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and fire. His winnowing fork is in his hand to clear his threshing floor and to gather the wheat into his granary, but the chaff he will burn with unquenchable fire. Now, when all the people were baptized, and when Jesus also had been baptized and was praying, the heaven was opened, and the Holy Spirit descended upon him in bodily form like a dove. And a voice came from heaven, You are my Son, the Beloved. With you I am well pleased.
And so Bob and I's task is to not only look at this and try and figure out what is happening in the Bible story, but the word evangelical, which has gotten such a bad tint in U.S. context right now, is in the name of the church we serve. We're the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, but it comes down from the word evangelos, which stands for the good news. And our task is to try and figure out what do we share with people in this reading that is good news to give them. I'll just really put it out. This one I am going to put out to either of you. Did anything jump out at you in that I mean, if you were to assume that Christianity has no place in the world and this is just a story that's coming to you like the early church, did anything jump out at you in that's good news?
Well, for the record, David means beloved. That's what I pointed out to you. So that's why I'm pretty cool.
I was waiting to see what Dave would come up with. So I was like, ooh.
No, he just wanted to brag on his name.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a good one. Yeah.
It is.
My great grandfather was Jewish. That's why my name's David Matthew. They got like super Hebrew names.
That is way too much like the band.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
But I mean, even aside, so I mean, right away, Christians in the world today, with our theology of baptism, have to wrestle with the fact that Jesus went to be baptized. In the time period that Jesus was, what John was doing was already, it was odd that Jesus would be baptized by him. John, in most accounts, tries not to do it to Jesus, but here we are now in a period of time where the theology of baptism is that we have drowned the old Adam, the sinful human being, and raised up a new human being. And yet the Christology, the way we think of Jesus, is that he was never the old Adam. He is an entirely new creature of sinlessness. And so what is Jesus doing being baptized? I mean, that's not the good news to come at in this task. It's not our takeaway, but how do you wrestle with that is something we have to do.
I think what it is that he's dedicating his life to his dad. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, all right, I'm going to do what you want me to do. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what it's supposed to mean. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
That, I mean, really, it resonates with me for an odd way, what you just said. So my wife and I our daughter was 6 when we got married. And that's kind of like, we owned a house together. We had a 6-year-old daughter. There's getting divorced is a far less difficult task than separating all the things we already had uniting us. And yet when it became time to get married, everything else in my life was a thing that happened to me. And that was the time to say, this is something I choose. It's not happening to me. It's something I choose. And I could see a 30-year-old Jesus going, I was born in a stable. It wasn't my choice. I have all this connection. It wasn't my choice. But going to John and being baptized is something that as a human being, I get to finally say, I choose this. That resonates, but just from my own life experience, it resonates as a possible good news that Jesus showed us that even though things are outside of our control, there's an effort to take a choice.
Well, I think also just actually remembering like talking. I had a buddy of mine in high school. We was hanging out at this one pastor's house sometimes, like his family and me, and then like I remember we had this discussion about kind of about this. Actually, this is probably like 2001, 2000, and so we have where Christian God exists in 3 parts: Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Correct? Okay. So it was really important that where of course he's also in heaven, watching us from above. We used to always kind of talk about how, like, unlike the other, let's say, deities of other religions, you have Jesus, who is both a human but also is divine. Yeah. So you have where, I guess it was kind of like, it sounds kind of crappy, but it was like unlike the other deities, unlike like
Zeus came to Earth all the time. Yeah. And usually it was to screw somebody.
To do nothing good. But it was where you have like where God came to Earth in the form of his son and kind of like, really experienced human life. Kind of like, I used to always say, like, he had his nose in it. He understands what it is to be dirty and to work hard and to be blistered and that, So I think that, like, it was really important for Jesus to do this thing that, like, humans did. I'm doing a human thing because I am a person. I am a human, and, even though where John here says, like, I am not worthy to undo the thong of his sandal, I'm still going to baptize this man, even though I'm not worthy to do so. And
what must it have been to be? I mean, John is a cousin of Jesus, what must it have been to have been raised knowing that, like, sure, you're a prophet.
The greatest of the prophets.
Your cousin, on the other hand, is God.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
I don't know. I mean, maybe there is a certain amount of, look, don't even try to compete. There's no point in that. I mean, that you're not going to compete, so don't bother with that. Don't be rivals, because this is how it's going to work, is that Jesus is going to come and people will follow him. You know, we talked on this pod last season about what it might have been like for John to know that, like Eric was saying, he's going to be superseded, and that's an okay thing. I had, in that episode, tried to play a clip from The Last Jedi, where Yoda is telling Luke that that this is the fate of all who are teachers and mentors, that our students are the ones who grow beyond us. And that's kind of John's experience. Is he's the one who's out there blazing the trail, but he knows that Jesus is going to grow beyond him, and that's an okay and natural thing.
It's like my cousin with her master's degree. Whatever. I love you, Alyssa, but like, whatever.
I liked, too, this idea of that this was an important rite of passage for Jesus, that it was something that meant something to him. One of the things that when people ask me about infant baptism, which our church baptizes children, infants, and of course, there's a practical aspect to that, right? You know, the church started baptizing infants when we started having infants to baptize. Once it became clear that there was going to be a church for some time and they were going to make babies, the question of, do we baptize the babies, kind of came up. And a lot of churches decided yes. And some of my sisters and brothers on the other part of the Christian family tree will make a really good case that it's important for somebody to have, some sort of meaningful faith commitment before they are baptized. I think, that speaks to me. But what I've said is that, for us, baptism is kind of like an adoption into God's family. And it's something that when you're adopted, it's the parent who is doing everything. And it's all about who that parent is and what they're like. That's why you're adopted. It's because your parent was the kind of person who chose to adopt. And we are adopted by God, not because of anything we are, but because our God is the kind of God who wants to make us part of his family. But there comes a moment in an adopted person's life where they say either, Mom and Dad, I hate your filthy guts and I wish you'd never adopted me. Or they say, I know I didn't choose this, but I am so glad that you made me your kid. And that's what I feel like confirmation is, that it's this moment of affirming this thing that happened to us. And Jesus has always been the Son of God. But I like the idea that there is this moment here where there is a yes, and that Jesus has the freedom not to give his yes if he chooses, but that's not who he is.
One thing I like about it is that John had the opportunity to be like, look at me, I get to baptize the Son of God. And could flaunt about it, and he's just like, whoa, don't look to me like I'm the greatest guy there is. There's one coming that's better. I'm nothing compared to this dude. I think that's what's kind of cool about it, is that he's very humble, where a lot of people today, if that was them, would have bragged about to everybody.
It's like, if you can play Tomorrow on guitar, but your boy can shred. First of all, that makes sense. That's a fair analogy. Mm-hmm. So same thing. We're like John Baptist. He can play Tomorrow or Blackbird on guitar, but Jesus, he can shred like Satriani. He's doing that intro to Eruption from Van Halen. Yeah, he's doing that.
I like the confidence that it takes to be humble. That John's able to be okay with that. The older I get, the more I realize that I do some things well, but there's always going to be somebody who does them so much better than I do, that I will never, ever, ever be at the top of any game. And that's an okay thing. It's okay for me to be as good as I am at the things that I do, and to see that I have room to grow, and to be humble and appreciate the people who can who can play chess better than I can, who can, work a roadcaster better than I can, who have better preaching, that's all okay. And I like that with John, that, he's somehow at peace with this.
I mean,
everyone says how humble I am. I'm very humble, probably more than anybody else. Super humble.
I will out humble your ass.
Actually, sorry.
Any day of the
First of all, that joke is stolen from Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm very sorry. That's not, but just
But
No, you
I mean,
excel in humility.
yeah.
I mean, back to the original question of what is the good is that the good news in this, that to play the role that you have to play is good enough? Like, I mean, and everyone likes the over the top character, but it's a straight man in a comedy duo. Like, we all know that's a solid role to play that is needed. That if you don't do well, is the good news in this that playing the straight man to let the other person go off and soar. If that's your role, that it's a divinely ordained role, because that's what John's got here.
Yeah, and that it's a good role to play that maybe some of us should think about more. I mean, I put myself in that category, right? That I totally have lead character syndrome, where in the world I am confident that I am the main character of the game, and that all of the rest of you are NPCs, and it's all about me. And I mean, I see that in all the way back to when I was a kid. We would play games, the neighborhood kids, and if we were playing Star Wars, I had to be Luke Skywalker. And if we were playing Wizard of Oz, yes, I was Dorothy. And, that just, it was more important to me to be the central character as I saw it than any preconceived ideas about gender. And
now that was a horse of a different color.
Yes.
Good pull.
Hoss,
Yeah.
you need to have your Wizard of Oz reference now.
Oh, please drop it. It's
Dang.
timely.
Yeah.
No, it's weird. Like, you know that movie, but now you're trying to think of one. My thing would be the Lollipop Guild. That's mine. We represent.
Hoss just like snacks. He's just like, oh, is there candy?
I always thought that one of the guys.
We represent the Lollipop Guild, the Lollipop Guild.
So I always love that they had a corner, by the way. They had a coroner. That's so dark. I'm sorry.
The weird part is, like, when you look at their face, like, that one dude looked like Mo from the Three Stooges. Like, it freaks me out every time I watch it. I can't help it. Like, they look like three old dudes. They're just shrunk down, and they're just
Life Up Guild. It's like, wow, bam.
yeah. Then there was the Lullaby League.
Oh yeah.
Everybody
yeah,
forgets about them. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, that's weird. I didn't realize that they were. I thought they were kids at first,
Yeah.
and then I watched them. Like, oh,
Yeah.
they're just little people.
Yeah, they're munchkins.
Yeah.
That's-
So but I'm saying like that they have a coroner, so that really like that puts in that there is like a mortuary school at Munchkinville. That there's that he went to, like, he learned how to, like, embalm little people.
I mean,
Which is weird because, like, her legs curl up underneath. So, like, where did she go? Like, did you pull her out that quick?
Yeah, he had an examiner.
Yeah, how did you examine her? So her feet rolled up into each other.
Yeah.
in the year of the release of the Wicked movie, I mean, really, all of this has been examined by Gregory Maguire in depth. The Munchkins are a very serious people, damn it.
Oh, dude, hit me with that voice thingy. Can you
yeah,
confirm
yeah.
it's possible? As coroner, I thoroughly examined her. Yeah. Straight up.
And she's very
My thing
dead.
is, I'm watching, like, so I didn't watch the movie Wicked, but I found out that the Wicked Witch of the East was in a wheelchair, which makes it kind of worse on Dorothy's part because the house landed on the Wicked Witch of the West sister, and in the movie she's in a wheelchair, so that's a hate crime right there. I'm just saying, Dorothy should be
That's ableism.
canceled.
Yeah.
You hit a person in a wheelchair.
Don't let the woke crowd get you,
and
man.
killed
I tell
them.
you.
And she got away with it. She got away
Yeah.
with murder.
And the house wasn't even accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah. They sang songs about her and she killed a woman in a wheelchair. What? What? I'm so
For all we know,
sorry.
Dorothy parked in the handicap zone.
True thing though, we
We have just ruined these guys' podcast. We have just ruined their podcast.
in Wicked, the actress who plays the sister is in
Can she
fact
walk?
she has a wheelchair,
Oh, okay.
and they
I was
made the
gonna
sets
say, like-
accessible for her. And I believe she's the first actress to play that role on stage or in
Yeah.
film now, who is in fact in a wheelchair. So
Well, I mean, good, considering the first one just was a pair of socks that rolled up.
Well, when he says that role, he does not mean the Wicked Witch of the East, but Elphaba's sister in Wicked, because I did bring my daughters to see Wicked, which this is an episode of digressions, but I did.
We still have 20 minutes to be relevant.
I think you mean Degrassi. Is that?
That's, but I brought them to see Wicked. I had never seen a version of the musical before to know what to compare the cinematic version to. I have read all of the Gregory Maguire books, though, and to the books, the movie holds up very well. And the takeaway song, Defying Gravity, was every bit as much of the banger as it was supposed to be. And I recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it, although you will be hooked into waiting until next year after Thanksgiving to watch the conclusion of the movie.
Oh, my goodness.
Yep. If you want to go back into the text, we've got this whole part about I baptize you with water, which is you know that the Wicked Witch is not showing up at the Jordan River to be baptized with water.
Imagine John was wrong, and he went to baptize him, and you start, I'm melting. I'm like, woo!
Oh, that was a bad idea.
Too far. I'm sorry. It was right. I just said if he was wrong, and it would have been somebody else.
It's just the Lord doing an ad for Axe body wash. He's like, "This is great. I smell wonderful."
So one of the things that's important in this text is the presence of the Spirit, and John really does not spend, or Luke doesn't spend a lot of time at all telling us about the ins and outs of the baptism. You have to go to other Gospels to hear what actually happened. Here it just basically says, yeah, Jesus was baptized, and then this other stuff happened. But Luke is really specific about that Jesus begins in the power of the Spirit, and that this is affirmed by the Spirit. And of course, it's in Luke Part 2, also known as the Book of Acts, that the Holy Spirit comes in Pentecost. Throughout his whole writing, Luke is kind of drenching the theme of the Spirit into the story. And he's much more concerned with the Spirit than he is with the water.
What I tell you what I really like is there's a callback in this passage, because if you look at when the Noah's Ark landed, or the water, and they said
send out
the dove to find it.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, it descended like a dove. So it's like, oh, it's kind of like a callback. Like, hey,
nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, because I know obviously, the Lord spoke to as a burning bush, as appeared as a dove. Okay. Now it says here that it says that a voice came from heaven. Do you think that this is actually the voice of God, or is it like something where did he actually send an angel to speak to his followers?
No, I'm having Alan Rickman. I am the Metatron.
It is a traditional reading to assume that is the Father, and largely because for Christianity to have the Trinity, this is the passage where we have the whole Trinity in one. You've got the voice, the Father, Jesus the Son, Birdie the Spirit. They're all there.
But Birdie was like the McDonald's breakfast mascot, wasn't she? Birdie the early bird.
But Birdie came, brought hot mustard. Just it's fine.
And I mean, 2,000 years of Christian tradition and orthodoxy makes the voice be the Father, but there isn't. It's not explicitly expressed in the passage that that's who we have saying that. But it's definitely, if we were to conceive it of being not the Father, it would be an unorthodox reading of the passage. Sure.
If it's not the Father, it's the Father passing a love note.
Yeah,
I mean, because that is what an angel would be doing in this case. This is an angel bringing tidings from the Father, and so one way or the other, whether it is a message spoken in the Father's own voice or whether it's a message given by the Father to be spoken, it is the words of the Father.
Well, I think if you compare it to other times that a voice was used in the Bible, most of the time it was God speaking through another angel, because the only time that He ever speaks directly to somebody is usually like I think Moses was the only one he's actually spoken to directly.
Which by the way, is actually my favorite Bible thing, actually. And it wasn't face to face where God said, "Turn, I will pass between you and the sun. You can look upon my shadow, because no man can see me and then live." So when God did, Moses slept for 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, like if not, like you have what you have in Dogma, where their heads explode and the chest bursts. You know,
and you know, then you ought to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Eric had raised an important point in this earlier about the question about you did about why did Jesus need to be baptized? Why would he submit to baptism? If John's baptism is about having your sins forgiven because you've repented, why would Jesus, as the perfect Son of God, why would he do that? And it turns out that, like Eric said, Christians have been thinking about this for a very long time. And the answer that some of the very earliest ones came to is that he's basically like one of those wildlife survival purifying tablets that you toss into the water. So this is Ignatius of Antioch, who says the reason why he was born and baptized was that he would purify the water by means of his passion. So Jesus enters into the water to be baptized, and by doing so, he purifies the water with his presence. So he's not being baptized because he needs to be purified. It's him who's actually making the water pure in the first place.
So
back to the water and the wine.
So it's they might It's they might be giants, particle man.
All right. I wish I could get that reference.
When he's underwater, does he get wet, or does the water get him instead?
Sounds like a Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris. The water gets chucked.
Water gets chucked.
Yeah, Chuck doesn't get wet or gets chucked.
Jesus is the Chuck Norris.
I mean,
that's what Mel Gibson was going for.
I mean, look at most paintings of Jesus. Very Chuck Norris-like. That's all I'm saying.
Ripped.
He does. I mean, the Jesus Christ physical exercise routine.
Yeah.
You could market that for a lot of money.
He was doing like
a lot of fasting. A lot of fasting.
A lot of carpentry.
A lot of carpentry. But I think that, like, I always, that's something I actually sincerely always enjoyed about like Jesus as like a person, sincerely, where I always felt that, like, a sincere drive and a sincere belief in, like, in people and, like, being a person. Like, it's okay to just be people. You know what I mean? I think even if, like, where there were some times in the Bible where he was, like, frustrated with God and, like, called out and was angry at his crucifixion and things like, but also I think that, like, he was a carpenter. He was a carpenter's son. I think that's always like been like very important to me, sincerely.
Who do you think was the best cinematic portrayal of Jesus?
Willem Dafoe.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Because it was human. It was a human portrayal.
I heard whoever plays him in I think the Bible, like the miniseries.
I have not seen that, but I've heard it's done. I mean, from folks that I respect their opinion. Mm-hmm. I have heard it's been done well. Have you seen the Bible miniseries?
No, I haven't.
Or no, not the Bible. The Chosen is what I'm thinking.
Okay. I've actually so usually I avoid such things studiously, but I've been hearing from enough people at church who I respect that this is actually good and worth my time, and so it's been on my list.
Pastor Bob using words like studious.
Right, I know.
But I mean, dog.
I'm kind of like a snob with some of that stuff.
Well, I mean, most Christian faith-based movies are terrible.
Objectively,
they're always horrible.
They're not trying to be good. Yeah. They're trying to be good news.
Yeah.
And they're trying to be the ones that are trying to be good news. I'll at least tip my hat to. It's the fact that they are trying to be quote unquote Christian most of the time, and don't really give a darn whether they are entertaining and or good news. They just want
it can be good.
They want to fit into that genre.
This would be an appropriate time for somebody to take a jab at Kirk Cameron as we do here.
Also, just for being he's such a ding dong. Honestly, like, he's just I'm trying not to curse. He's such a ding dong. Like, it's just like that's and honestly, like, you said about where the word evangelical has gotten a lot of bad rap and stuff in the United States recently. It's because of people like him. Sincerely, where, like, he really is like, I don't know who makes his movies for, other than just his bank account.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I stand by that there was a time period when, like, all of the cool girls had the Teen Beat Kirk Cameron on their bulletin board, and a few of them had Jason Bateman on their bulletin board instead. And the Jason Bateman girls have been redeemed through the art.
So having led us down that rabbit hole, well, one of the things that I think is important to talk about here is, I mean, Eric is really good about bringing up the question of where is there good news in this? And we kind of just jumped right into that there was good news. But if we're honest, I feel like there's stuff here that doesn't sound like such very good news. I mean, his winnowing fork is in his hand to clear his threshing floor and to gather the wheat into his granary, but the chaff he will burn with unquenchable fire. There is an axe at the root of this tree. The tree doesn't even yet know it, but it's about to be whacked down by the timbersmen. I mean, this is there's threatening stuff here that may not sound like good news. So how do you guys hear that? Because maybe this isn't the place where it says, like with many other such exhortations, he proclaimed the good news to them, and that
they cut that out of this. It's
that's
in
what
there,
we skipped.
But they cut it out.
So that the text is saying, in fact, this is good news. Do you guys hear that as good news? That stuff about axes and unquenchable fires and stuff?
And the chaff you will burn with unquenchable fire. Jesus loves you.
They were going through an Aussie phase. You know what I mean? Just get a little, you got to have some metal in there. You know what I mean? To me, honestly, I think it's more like a symbolic thing. Mm-hmm. Like he's coming and he's going to gather up the ones who are good and faithful and good people. And what they're referring to is the bad, like evil people out there just going out there to hurt people, just to hurt people. They don't care. Like this person's not going to be redeemed.
So, I mean, I had a way I was going to jump into that, but have you ever met a person in your life that is a cartoon villain type evil?
Oh, yes.
Oh, you have? See, I haven't. Dave is pointing to you. For those who can't see I am sitting across from probably two of the nicest guys in all of the comedy scene of our region. I was
going to say, and Bob.
And Bob, who's a jag-off, he's there too. But you have, because I have met people who do. I was not always a pastor, and I have moved in circles where very bad things were done. But I've never in my life met a human that was fully bad. I've met people who, for reasons, do bad things. But you say you've met these evil people.
I've met people that are just kind of like, they're just a jerk for no reason. Like you've tried to be nice to this person every time you try to talk to them, and there's always an attitude or something. And you're just like, all right, like this guy's just a known jerk. Like I've met some old, like especially older people, they just don't care. They just like, you know what? I hate you for no reason. And I'm like, all right, you're just gonna be, you're just that bad. You're just a bad guy. You just have a bad outlook on things. But I'm not saying everybody can't be redeemed, but you can only give so many people opportunities before you just gotta be like, all right.
I can't remember honestly where I heard this, but it was just something, the way that I always kind of like view the world, or try to at least, is that like honestly a lot of good people have done a lot of bad things, but also a lot of bad people have done a lot of good things. Weirdly enough, I think that like if you ever like watched or read like Game of Thrones, like everyone's doing something for a reason. Everyone has a purpose why they're doing it, even if it seems evil. It's for some other reason that in their mind it seems good. When I was actually reading this, though, when I was kind of about his winnowing fork is in his hand to clear the threshing floor and all this, the unquenchable fire, is that I've always felt that, like, especially things like baptism is all about kind of like you're literally like you're crawling out of the old you. You know what I mean? You're gonna rip off like kind of like your corn husk to become good corn. you know. But
we are running short on time, but that is a ridiculously astute unpacking of baptismal theology for a layperson. That is, I mean, being crawling out of the waters and becoming something new is, in seminary, that'd get you a decent grade.
Yes.
Listen, I have a degree in creative writing from Slip Rock University. I rock, baby. So recognize. Listen, her master's degree, whatever.
Was it Slippery Rock or Slippy Rock?
Slippy Rock, dog.
Slippy
Rock.
Slippy Rock.
I'm hearing Slippy Rock.
Yeah. Dude, I'm from Pittsburgh. I can't enunciate.
So, so there is from our colleagues. I have heard of the fact that the wheat and the chaff are from the same thing, and so let's not try and turn this into the bad people versus the good people.
Yeah.
Which a solid part of me wants to go down that route of this isn't about God condemning the quote unquote bad people. And yet the early church did not have the individualistic view of humanity that we in the U.S. have right now.
Yeah.
And so to be wheat and chaff of the same thing could very well be to different people of the same community. I mean, this rugged individualism is an invention of the last few hundred years.
Yeah.
And so I wrestle with where to go with that because I don't want it to be a rallying cry of this is God saying he's going to get those, quote unquote, those people. But but the badness that you're bringing up.
That's what I'm referring to. Is like just wiping.
In making that good news, I hear a seminary professor of mine who was an Old Testament professor who would say, I don't want to worship a God that doesn't hate the things that are bad. Like, if you're looking at genocide, I don't want a God that loves that, and that there is perhaps some good news even in the unquenchable fire if it is to those things.
Yeah, there is badness, and it's people that walk around Target talking on FaceTime on their phone. That's just
those are the people that are getting burned with fire.
Genocide, schmenocide, Target on FaceTime on the phone.
Yeah.
Those people need to burn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Dorothy and her parking in the handicap spot. I'm just saying.
Do you think?
Call back.
Do you think that's our takeaway for the day?
Whether it is or not, I think we are pretty close to out of time, so we're going to leave it there.
So for those of you who are listening for entertainment, I hope it was entertaining. For those preparing to preach, I hope you are more prepared than you were before you began listening. Thank you, Dave and Haas, for joining us today. Are there places that you want folks to go find you online to either show up at a Chip Tam or book you, or obviously they want to check out Big Haas's Tailgate
on or around January 12th or thereafter.
Yes.
I have nothing actually come up other than the show we have tomorrow, so it'd be too late. But you can find me on Instagram. Just search like Dave M. Stewart. I'm not hard to find, or like biggest Dave 412. But also follow Chip Tam Comedy on Instagram. And yeah, show starting in February. February 28th will be the first show at Helltown Brewing in the Strip District.
Yep, Instagram. It's just Big Hoss Comedy, and there's an Instagram comedy page or Instagram. Hang on, podcast Instagram page. See. Sometimes my brain gets ahead of me before I talk. And my podcast is on Amazon Music, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So
it's also it's a fun podcast. Like give Big Hoss Tailgate a listen. It's great.
Yeah, I've had Eric on and Dave on, so yeah, we have some pretty good listens.
Well, thank you to everybody out there who is still listening. If you were offended, we're sorry.
Yeah, but if you're still listening at this point, it's totally your fault. We're not sorry.
That is true. Look, you're still here, so do us a favor. Be sure to subscribe to CPTB wherever you get your podcasts. Share it with your friends, your family, your pastors, anyone you think might enjoy it.
Put it online as a virus and infest other people's computers. We'll take it.
Absolutely, we will. And we will be back next week with a short take and 2 weeks with the comedians.
Until then, let the Holy Spirit do her thing in your life.